Good morning. My name is Camila Rocha. I'm the President and CEO for Easterseals, South Florida. And I'm here with a couple of friends that I'm going to introduce to you. Fernanda Jorgensen from Philanthropy Miami. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you. And Stephen Shelley from Farm Share.
Correct. Perfect. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you so much for being here. So we're going to be spending some time this morning just sharing a little bit about the mission of our organizations, what we're doing, and one topic that is very hot at the moment, which is the CBO funding from the county. So you want to start, Fernanda?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's really been an honor to serve as an ally for the CBOs at Philanthropy Miami. We are the hub that connects, trains, and strengthens nonprofits in the community. And we've been working really closely to help organizations empower them to really advocate on behalf of the funding that is, being proposed to be eliminated, but hopefully some of it's going to be restored, and then finding a longer-term solution.
Yes, that has been one of the most critical aspects of all of this advocacy work. So, Stephen, you want to tell us a little bit about Farm Share and what you guys do with the CBO funding?
Sure. So Farm Share has been around since 1991. We're kind of we're the major food bank here in Miami-Dade County. We're the hub where local organizations come to get that food and then distribute it locally within those communities. We distribute, over 100 million pounds of food statewide. We're a statewide organization, but in Miami-Dade County alone, it was 43 million pounds of food last year. And so we utilized the CBO funding to kind of match. We were able to match the monies that are given to us by Miami-Dade County with federal funds and with state funds, and we're able to amplify. We get about $762,000 from Miami-Dade County. We're able to turn that into almost $2.5 million of impact into Miami-Dade County because of that investment. And so that's why those fundings are key. And for us also, we are providing a lot of our aid directly to other CBOs. So we're kind of a multiplier effect. As they invest in us, we then turn around and reinvest in these local CBOs. And so it kind of spreads that funds spread far and wide through Miami-Dade County.
Yeah, which is very critical for the work that we do. At Easterseals, for example, we leverage the CBO funding so that our clients can stay with us for longer hours. And that turns into families being able to have full-time jobs and provide for their families and continue living together, which is not something very easy when you are caring for seniors with Alzheimer's or dementia. That's a big burden for caregivers. Or when you are a parent of a child with a special need that needs a full round of care and you can't have those extended hours. So for us, it's very critical. And the support of other organizations that help these families get food, shelter, a job, financial stability, counseling. It's so critical. So we have in this, what we call the community advocacy team, I think many other organizations that provide critical services. And what we have been saying and sharing with the community is that is lifelines for all of the families that we serve. And I think, Fernanda, you put a great toolkit together for all of us to use in our advocacy efforts. So you want to talk to us a little bit about it?
Thank you. But before I bring up the toolkit, I think both of you mentioned something that's really important here. It's not just about funding organizations. It's really about making an investment. Both of you are cited two examples of how you're able to get this funding, but also turn it around and leverage other funding, support other organizations, and really invest in our community. And I think that's a key point that we have to make sure our elected officials and the community knows. And that's what we try to do with this toolkit. So very early on in the budget process, we, as Philanthropy Miami, we thought about how can we help and support in this moment. And so we put this toolkit together to provide sample scripts, talking points, to really empower organizations to personalize it based on what the work that they are doing and feel confident that they can share their impact with elected officials and others in the community so we could really understand the gravitas of the situation.
And I think it has helped empower those smaller nonprofit organizations that perhaps don't have the time or the advocacy tools to go into the commissioners, to send them an email, to give them a call, just to make sure that their voices are being heard and that they have the opportunity to advocate for their clients with a very powerful message. So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about what could happen to farm share if these funds are not reinstated and if you guys have to find them somewhere else?
You know, it would be catastrophic for the system because ultimately, like I talked about, you know, that multiplier effect. So if we don't have the first set of dollars to then multiply with the second and the third set of dollars, you know, everything becomes zero. And so that becomes a real critical problem where we don't have access to food. We don't have the monies to move that food. We can't acquire that food. And then if we don't have the food, then all of our network that relies on that food that we're able to acquire and distribute doesn't have it either. So it starts to break down the entire system. So it is a critical aspect that we make sure that we get fully funded, you know, that our funding is restored in Miami-Dade County, just like for the other CBOs and our partners. And it's important for us, just like you were mentioning, for us all to advocate for each other because we all kind of work into that safety net network. And so one of us goes down, so in our case, it's the food side of things. If I don't have the food, then sometimes that's what brings people in for other purposes. They need the food as that building block, and then they come and get the food, but while they're getting food, they're getting, you know, access to job training. They're learning about mental health issues. They're learning about physical health issues. And so all of that goes away if you don't have that first building block in place. So it becomes very critical for us to make sure that we get that funding. And to sidetrack a little bit back to the toolkit, I think it was very helpful this particular funding cycle because everybody had uniform voices. And in years past, there wasn't the uniform voice. It was, you know, I was saying something, someone else was saying something, and yes, the messages all reverberated, but it wasn't the same as everybody kind of moving the same direction, in the same direction, saying the same things with the same talking points that really, I think, made a big impact this year. And for the first time since I can remember, you had a large, you know, almost unanimous agreement by the commissioners that CBO funding and funding those CBOs and safety net organizations was really an important thing for them to focus on. And so that was something that we've never seen before. Usually it's a few champions, but to have kind of that uniformity was fantastic. And I think a lot of that had to do with those toolkits and the ability to have that uniform messaging.
Yeah, and I think that we should give credit to Miriam Singer from Jewish Community Services for bringing us all together. It speaks, what you mentioned speaks very highly about the power of partnerships, the power of unity. When we come together, we do incredible work at every one of these nonprofit organizations, but when we really come together to collaborate, to get united, to be the voice for those that can't speak for themselves, it's when real change happens. So I think that aside from all this being very hard work on all of us, very challenging for our organizations, if we can think of something good that has come out of this, it's the opportunity to connect with our colleagues, to connect with the organizations that are doing such critical work, and to really unify our voices and the messages for the commissioners. I think it's been priceless and a highlight of all of these challenges that we have had. So what other opportunities do you think we have encountered aside from just the partnership?
Yeah, well, first of all, I echo your sentiments. Big shout out to Miriam. She was actually the first person I reached out to ask, how can we help? And I think that this is just the beginning. We really need to continue working as a coalition of organizations with the same message that our organizations are essential. Our work is essential. I always say that nonprofits are really the backbone of our county, and the workforce is the heartbeat. And so the more we can align our messaging and continue with storytelling, the coalition building, and really working with our elected officials and philanthropy as well, because it really is an entire ecosystem. So there's still a lot more work to be done.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's the increased collaboration as well. So that's the other thing, that as we've come together as a coalition, we've learned a little bit about each other and what each one's missions are and what we do and accomplish. And so I think there's opportunities there for additional collaborations that maybe didn't exist before because there wasn't that line of communication. And so you're going to, I think, see a lot more of that. Plus, you saw that being encouraged by the commissioners themselves, saying, hey, we'd love to see these organizations collaborate. Although we were already collaborating, a lot of these organizations were already working together. But I think increased collaboration going forward is going to be very important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think collaboration happens a lot, but sometimes we're not as vocal about it, or other people don't know how they can get involved. So I think having everyone coming together and understanding what our strengths are and what the gaps are will create more room for additional collaboration and maybe partnerships that didn't exist before.
Correct.
I think it's going to help us leverage each other's programs and resources. We have connected with so many people that I've heard of organizations that I didn't even know their mission. And it aligns so well with the mission that we have. And we provide services to the same community. So not the same services per se, but we can be stronger together. And I think that's the message overall that I'm taking over with all of these advocacy efforts, is how we can really prove that this is a big group. We are very powerful. We are being heard because we are united. Otherwise, I don't think that would be necessarily the case. I want to share a case with you guys, because we have we talked to the families that we serve, just because we wanted them to tell us what would happen if this funding goes away. And we have families like Genesis, Odile, Rafaela. But in particular, Rafaela, she is the daughter of one of our seniors that is in the adult daycare centers with Alzheimer's. And she was telling us that her health has suffered because of her caregiving duties. So for us not being there for her will imply a whole lot of medical needs for herself, aside from her mom's. And just getting to know Jewish Community Services, they can help her. Maybe we don't have a program for her, but partners that are in this coalition are able and willing to help. What are those partnerships that you have discovered throughout this journey, Stephen?
Well, we have a lot of partnerships with a lot of the organizations over the 30-some years that we've been around. But I think that it's reinforcing those partnerships. It's some of those that we have maybe strayed away from, where we had strong partnerships was in the past, but for one reason or another, the programs have kind of gone different directions. And so this has kind of brought some of those partnerships back together, again, whether it's providing food for those who are going through mental health, or going through, is it job training programs? Because again, we had that a lot too, where at our events, we'll bring the food and we distribute that food. And so it's inviting those organizations to be there to help get their messaging out. Is it letting people know that their programs exist, or is it supplementing their programs? If they already have a program that's working really well, but they're missing maybe that food component. And so it's our ability to then go in and kind of plug that gap. So it's been very helpful.
Good.
Yeah, and we have a survey that went out. A group of funders came together and said they wanted to understand, the challenges with funding cuts. And back in March or April was really the federal and state cuts, and now it's the county. So things are evolving very rapidly. But what we're seeing with the results are which programs are coming and going. And so we hope, as a sector leader, we can share this information so that there aren't any disruptions in services and opportunities for partnership. And I think that's really what funders are going to want to see more of moving forward, because resources are not limitless. And so how can we work together with philanthropy and government and the nonprofits on the ground to see where the gaps are and how we can come together. And we saw that during COVID, during the pandemic. We were able to come together and be resilient. And so I think that this is another opportunity for us to do the same.
Yeah, and that is key that you mentioned, because I am finding as well that the funders, those donors out there, they are looking for the collaborations. They're looking to fund not just one organization, but 2, 3, 4 organizations in some sort of collaborative effort that makes a bigger impact. And so I think that's, again, this is a side product of that, is by us all coming together and becoming more collaborative. I think it's going to open the door for additional funding sources, as you mentioned, not only from the government side, federal, state, and county, but from these private donors as well. So again, all a critical thing, I think, in moving forward and moving our missions forward together.
Yeah, sometimes these disruptions, there's a silver lining. And I think our sector as a whole, it's hard to innovate, right? Because so many of us are just keeping our head down, working on our missions and making sure the community is taken care of. But this is an opportunity to take that step back and see where can we improve and where can we be more efficient or more collaborative. So definitely more things to be hopeful about. And maybe that's just me being the optimist. But I think that, by coming together first and foremost as this coalition of providers, we can see where the gaps are and where the opportunities are as well.
Yeah, you two mentioned something really, really key, that nonprofits, we work with very lean resources, right? But we happen to thrive in chaos. So yes, during COVID, we had to very quickly adapt to continue providing such critical services. So this is yet another opportunity for us to really think outside the box, come together, create coalitions, partnerships, look at our strengths and leverage on those to be able to not shut our doors, continue providing those such critical services. But the other thing that it's a reality that we cannot miss is the increased demand for our services when federal, local, and state funding is being cut. So you want to talk to us a little bit about that, Stephen?
Yeah, so I mean, I think you're seeing that in some of those revised job numbers. You're seeing that in some of the economic trends. You're seeing that in we're finally getting discounts right at the stores, which is good for us as a consumer, but it also is a indicator that there's a weakness in that spending patterns that has been there for years. And so you're seeing that there's a need or a focus that the trajectory is going to go upwards, not downwards. And it's already been kind of trending upward already because of this inflationary pressures that have been going on for, I think it's almost a 40% increase in cost of value since, pre-COVID time periods. And so we've seen that. And as you start cutting the funding resources that are available to, not-for-profits and social service organizations like FarmShare and others, you're handcuffing us. We have no ability to do our job. And that same inflation that's affecting the consumer and affecting the general population is also affecting us as an organization. Mm-hmm. So for me specifically, my labor costs have gone up, my fuel costs have gone up, my maintenance costs for my trucks have gone up, my electricity has gone up. I mean, all across the board, my expenses have gone up. So not only am my expenses are going up, my funding is going down, and the demand for my services is also going up. And so it really makes it very difficult for us to continue to provide those types of services. And it is a real challenge. It is a real challenge, which does require creative thinking and innovative ideas in a way to try to solve some of those problems.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, when we're talking about budget and funding, these are not abstract numbers. It's not just about the services and the demand for services, but also the workforce you mentioned, So unfortunately, a lot of nonprofits have already reported to us through the survey that we did that they've had to close programs, they had to lay off staff, or they had to have hiring freezes. And ultimately, our workforce, it's over 77,000 people work for the nonprofit sector in Miami-Dade County. It's not an insubstantial number. And so, we think about what's going to happen to those people who are going to lose their jobs, who can't afford to live in Miami. They're going to move out of Miami. What is that really going to happen to our community?
And in a stage where things are getting more expensive and inflation is going up, we are thinking about, just particularly with CBO funding, we were proposed to get a cut. Now we believe that we are in a better place. But again, we're not getting a penny increase in over years that we have received this funding. So it's important for us to continue advocating for the commissioners and elected officials and the community at large to understand what we are doing with the funding. And the funding is not going up every year. There's cost of living increases that our families go through, that our staff members go through, that unfortunately are not happening because the funding is just not there.
And the other thing we're seeing too, at our level, at least at our organization, is so the people that are utilizing our services, so food services specifically, is completely changed from what it was, say, 4 or 5 years ago. And it also, that's part of the education process of educating the elected officials of who is actually needing our services. So you have these ALICE reports that come out, that shows that in Miami-Dade County, 51% of the population is struggling to make their bills and pay their bills. And these aren't just people who are, seniors or children or unemployed. These are people who have jobs, sometimes multiple jobs, but they can't make ends meet because of this high cost of living in Miami-Dade County. And so I think that's also critical that people understand that it's a wide-ranging population of people here that are in need of our services, food banking, but also other social services as well. And I think that's also a critical message to make people understand, because it may be your kid's soccer coach, it may be your kid's teacher, and they're going through these struggles. And so the funding that you're providing to us safety net organizations is helping everybody.
I love that you mentioned that, because that's one thing that people are not going out in the streets to say, oh, I need food, oh, I need shelter. It's not something people take pride on. And just the fact that they approach us and see a safe space for them to share their needs and kind of try to get some help, it's so valuable. And they are putting all their vulnerabilities out there. So what can we tell them? Where can they go? Where should they be looking for services aside from our 3 organizations? There's plenty of others. But what will you tell these families that are out there, perhaps in need of services, that are not going to come out just freely to share it?
Yeah, I think that, this is why the collective work of the organizations is so important, because we can we're the trusted messengers, right? Your organizations have been around in the community for so many years, and you know this community very well. You're a trusted space. I think that the work that you do, helps overcome any concerns or insecurities of people asking for help and being able to get that, and that it's okay, right? It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, and I do agree. I think it's part of that messaging, it's part of the education program. That was one of the silver linings that came out of COVID, was from the food banking world, was that it became acceptable to go to a food bank for food because people were going there for multiple reasons, during the COVID time periods. And so that kind of took away some of that stigma. But I think there's a lot of other social services and a lot of other needs that people have that stigma maybe hasn't been eroded yet. And so finding a way to educate and let people know. I know on our end too, we're trying to make sure that people have access to that. We've recently launched kind of an app, and part of that is not only does it provide them a methodology to find their food where they need food, but it also provides them other organizations where they can provide help from. So it kind of has a list of, is it mental health? Is it just regular health? Is it something else in between that they can then go to, and it kind of gets them off into these other organizations that can provide those services that FarmShare maybe can't.
And it's about meeting people where they are, right?
Yes.
So where are people already going in the community, whether it's their church or at school or their workplace, really reducing that stigma of being able to get help and doing it in a holistic way, so that we're looking at the entire individual and in families, right? So it's not just about, like you mentioned, the food, but the mental health and the primary care, and so all the things that people need to live healthy, productive lives.
And I think that's also an underlying message of this collaboration, is like people go to their trusted provider, and oftentimes is that little nonprofit across the street, or that after school program where their children are safe, or that little agency that provides mental health or health services or food and nutrition support. So those are the safety spaces that the community has, and it's all of us. It's all of these nonprofit organizations that need this critical funding to continue to operate. So if we can wrap up and share with the people, the audience watching, with our elected officials, what will be that one message that you want to leave behind for your organization and all the other CBOs advocating? So let's go with Fernanda.
Well, I would just say, to me, it's about collective impact. So making sure that elected officials understand that the organizations, the CBOs providing services, these are essential services, and that there's a multiplier effect, right? So it's not just about funding programs, but the workforce, the community. It's really an investment in Miami-Dade County. So that's what I would say. That's probably more than one message. But.
No, and I agree. I think it is that return on investment. That's the key message, because in order for Miami-Dade County to provide the same services that we do as CBOs, it would cost them, 5, 10, 15 times as much. So the investment that they're making in the CBO community, those essential services, is exponentially returned to them. And so I think that's what they need to look at, because if they just look at a dollar value number, it seems like a large number. But if you look at what you would be paying in order to provide those same services, I think that it makes a lot more sense. The other thing too is I think it's that they're making a declaration of what's important to them. I think that's something that CBOs have been talking about this whole process, is they are saying that the most vulnerable in Miami-Dade County are somebody and people that they find to be very important. It's not really about the CBOs, it's about people we're serving. And so again, I think that's a critical thing too. That's the message that I want to give, is you are delivering the message by fully restoring the funding for CBOs. You're sending that message that those people matter to you.
Yeah, correct. You fund what's important to you. And I just would also add to that, the downstream costs, right? So a lot of the work that we're doing is about prevention, right? And so if we don't take care of our people, we don't take care of our families, they get sicker, they go to the emergency room, they end up in the streets. So the costs in the long run, if we don't focus on these important services now, is a sicker, less thriving community.
For sure. And one thing that I would like to share with all of our elected officials that have very graciously take their time to listen to our message, to really hear what each organization is doing, is to come out and see the work we do, to meet with our clients, to really understand their needs, because it puts everything in perspective. And I would like to share and to close our time together. And thank you, first of all, for being here, for joining us, for helping us amplify the message that we need the CBO funds restored recurrent so that we can continue making changes and positive impact in the lives of those we serve. But nobody can tell the stories better than the clients we serve. So I would like to close with some of the stories of hope we have at Easterseals, South Florida. We have beautiful families that could not live as successfully and thriving as they are without this fund. So thank you very much for watching us, and please enjoy these stories of hope. Thank you.
My name is Genesis. I have 2 children at Easterseals, and Easterseals has been nothing but a blessing for my children and for myself. Benjamin just turned 5, but he's been here since he was 1.5 years. And without Easterseals, I wouldn't have my kids anywhere else. I love it. It's a family. It's a blessing. Benji does not want to go to any other school that is not Easterseals. He feels comfortable. He likes the family. He likes his friends, the activities that they do for him. It's beneficial for me because now, after 2 years, I finally got a job. So I start tomorrow. And it's better for me, for him to have a full routine, a full schedule, and that's what I love about Easterseals, that their routine and their schedules are all the same throughout the day. And they're educational, and they beyond loved it, and I wouldn't trade Easterseals for the world. They have helped me out in so many ways with my situation that I have. They've always been here for me. They've had my back. And it's like a second family. And you guys give them that encouragement, that motivation to want to move forward. I think a lot of special needs children need that motivation. They need that help that a lot of parents don't know about.
Gracias a este programa pude incorporarla aquí con un personal súper profesional. Me le hacen muchas actividades. Ella ha mejorado muchísimo. Me participa, se mantiene activa. E independientes que están siempre pendientes a su salud. Yo me voy con muchísima tranquilidad a realizar mis actividades, porque producto del mismo cuidado con ella, mi salud se vio afectada también. Entonces, gracias a que la puedo dejar aquí y que con mucha tranquilidad siento como que la estoy dejando en familia. Me han dado orientaciones para lidiar con este tipo de enfermedad, orientaciones sobre trámites de ayuda que puedo recibir, que no sabía que existía ese tipo de ayuda, cómo manejarla a ella, porque todo fue nuevo para mí. Pero aquí es una ayuda constante. Esto no es un centro de adult care, esto es una familia grande.
Lionel tiene autismo y fue diagnosticado durante estábamos acá en Easterseals. Nosotros no sabíamos que él tenía problemas de speech delay, que tenía problemas con la motora fina, motora gruesa. Actualmente recibe muchas terapias acá y para nosotros ha sido súper increíble. Pero después de que vino y empezó clases aquí en Easterseals, es un niño completamente diferente. Se puede ver en su cara, él pasó 3 semanas sin venir acá y mi dolor era las terapias de él, la ayuda a retroceder, le está haciendo falta eso y él llora a la hora de querer venir aquí. Llora por quitarse o bajarse del car seat. Easterseals nos ha ayudado a tener un vínculo con nuestro hijo, a saber comunicarnos con él, a que él se comunique con nosotros. Y siento que sin Easterseals, no sé qué sería actualmente de nosotros como familia. Easterseals me ha hecho ver que las cosas no son difíciles cuando uno tiene un niño con una condición, que hay esperanzas, que hay soluciones, y siento que todo eso ha sido debido al profesionalismo y la gran ayuda que nos ha dado un centro como este.